Best wishes to all. So in this video we are going to see about the IDEs which we can use it for Python development. IDEs are nothing but integrated development environment. So that means one tool or one application which is comprised of all the tools or plugins which is needed to complete our development. For example, once you develop your code, you have to execute your code, that is one, and if there is a problem you have to debug it, and if program is working fine you have to make it in a version controlled one, and if version control is done we have to make out a build out of it, right? So if a single application supports all the different types of activity which is involved in the development life cycle, we'll call it as a IDEs, right? So likewise for Python we are having many IDEs available in the market, so we are picking some of them which is quite popular among the developers. First one is IDLE. So this is IDEs of Python itself. So they itself providing one IDEs, that is one. Next one is PyCharm. So this is coming from JetBrains, which is in the series of IntelliJ, so which is quite famous for Java development platforms and other web developments. Third one is PyDev. So this is a plugin for Eclipse. So this is also one of the quite popular tool, Eclipse, for all the development activities, right? So here PyDev is a plugin which we have to install it inside the Eclipse platform. Fourth one is Visual Studio Code. Okay. So likewise we are having many tools like Atom and anything extra. So now out of this four we have to see what we can pick it up and use based on our needs. So basically if we are beginning with Python's development, so my preference would be Visual Studio Code. So so this is basically based out of how simple framework IDE has, that is one. Next one is how easily you can adopt into that development environment, and and what are the different capabilities which that particular IDE has. So based out of this, Visual Studio Code is quite simple, and performance wise also it is quite good, and as a beginning we can use Visual Studio as one of the quite good IDE for Python development. Okay. So to get Visual Studio Code, you have to download it from Visual Studio Code website itself. So get it from Visual Studio Code. So download it for your local machine based on your operating system, and so once it is get installed, so when you launch, this one will be like this. So get Visual Studio Code. So you will get a welcome home page. So here itself they will give you the quick hints about this particular IDE is common for most of the web development items. Like here if you see JavaScript, Python, PHP, and a lot of Microsoft's tool which it can support. This is one. And from the look and feel itself you can see that this is actually very simple IDE or very simple tool which we can immediately start working, because you will not find something like how to go in a systematic way of project setups and all this. So those complicated things will not be there. So it was much simplified version of IDEs, right? So here to begin with the Python, right? So here if you see in file, based on our need we can create this Visual Studio Code as comfortable as it is, right? So if you are going to work only on one file, just create it as a new file, and let's say you are learning on curve which is extending for let's see for one of the big project, and you are doing some POCs and all. So now it is good to create a workspace. Workspace is nothing but that it is a set of folder. Under that folder you will be having many files which is having a dependency with each other, so that you can maintain all the files in a single place. So that's what called as a workspace. Probably let's start with a workspace. So for for this purpose I am already having one workspace. Let me open it. So I'm seeing something like I'm having a sample programs in the Python. So I want to make this particular folder as a workspace here. Okay. So, but if you're having a simple folder, then Visual Studio will not make it as a workspace for you. So you have to create a workspace from Visual Studio itself. You cannot open a folder and make it as a workspace. Okay. So what you have to do is, if you want to open your existing folder as a workspace, so here if you see, there are options just to add a workspace to the default, add a folder to default workspace, and then make that workspace as your customized one. So now I added my Python folder as a folder into default workspace. Right? So here if you see, it will say as an untitled workspace, but inside that I just added Python, but all the folders inside it, right, everything will be added into it in the tree. So you can access everything in a single shot. Okay. And if you want to save this particular workspace as your workspace, then use the option save workspace as. So now this one will become your workspace. So whenever you are closing and reopening, automatically Visual Studio Code will open your workspace, and you can directly get into this particular one. Okay. So now I am having a very small program to start with this. Right. So I am having just a print statement in it, and using this, how to execute your Python is the next thing which we are going to learn. So here you see, right, so there is a terminal. So get your new terminal here. So this one will open your own command prompt here. So this is nothing but our command prompt only, but which is inside your Visual Studio Code. So here also if you type py, then it will tell, okay, Python is installed over here. Right? So now to run with this print.py, so we just have to get into our folder path. Now if you try to install print.py, so this one will simply run. So your integrated execution terminal also within in your Visual Studio Code itself. Okay, so this is one thing which we should understand. And next one is kind of like if you want to search some files inside it, right? So then you can use this option. So using this you can search and you can get what are the keywords which you want. This is one. Third one is, this is a source control, version maintenance. Probably this needs a Git and some other setups. Probably we'll see this later. So third one is kind of run your program and debug it if there is a problem. So that one we are having a dedicated option out of it. You can simply run and you can start to deal with the debug. Probably once we get into the detailed level of programming, we will see how to use these debugging options. Okay. So final one is, this is one of very simple implementation or which is kind of a complex in some other IDEs, but here it was provided in a simplest form. It is kind of if you want to install any plugins which you want to support for the Visual Studio, then you can simply search here and install. Probably if I search for Python, so in market there are so many libraries or so many plugins available to speed up your programming and to reduce the number of issues during your executions, right? So these are the lot of plugins which is available in the market if you want to get any one of it. So for example, let me just click Python for Visual Studio Code. So here if you see, so whatever the plugin details is available for it, right? So they will list out of it here, right? And you can also see what are the various usage of this particular package or a library. So here its main purpose is highlighting your syntaxes and show you the snippets of your coding. This one will be very useful when we are learning the new language, right? So if you want to install this, simply If you click install, that's it actually. So Python, particular plugin of Python will be uh, installed in your Visual Studio Code automatically. Okay, and so this kind of plugin install, search and installation is one of the very simplest implementation, or one of the very easiest way of implementation compared to some other IDEs. So this way you can enhance your productivity much quicker. Okay, so now you would have understood how easily you can roam around in Visual Studio Code. Probably in the down the line, when we get into the detailed programmings and when we are getting into so many variables handling, that time we will see one by one of features what is available in Visual Studio Code, which we can enhance to improve our productivity. Okay, thank you all for joining. Thank you.